Is Tammy, Kelley, and I've been in the world of church and ministry for quite a few years now. Currently, I'm a consultant, and I have my own little consulting business called Intelligent Design Incorporated, and we work with churches and businesses and nonprofit organizations. But prior to that, I was part of the leadership team at Willow Creek Community Church for about 7.5 years, and was a little bit of a jack of all trades. I spent a lot of time leading the people resources end, so that was the human resources and staffing and volunteerism, but also provided leadership to the communications area and our compassion ministries and our Hispanic ministry when I was on staff. And then prior to that, I was part of a very cool church in Ohio called Ginghamsburg Church, and served in a variety of staff roles there, and eventually was our executive pastor the last couple of years I was there. So I have had a very fun ride in ministry. And if I could do it over again, I would. I got a couple things that I'll share with you. First of all, I would ask more questions and make fewer declarative statements. And what I mean is, when I used to think that I had to have all the answers, and the answers were black and white, right or wrong, truth or lie, basically. And I felt like my role as a leader was to either get at the truth or give someone the right answer. And I kind of lived out life that way, being very declarative. And then one day I had a friend of mine say to me, he goes, one of my little axioms in life is there's two sides to every story. And when he said that, I thought, oh, you're crazy. Actually, I probably said that out loud to him because I knew him pretty well. I just thought that that was a silly statement, especially in the Christian world. Two sides to every story. No, there's right and there's wrong. But that started to play with my mind a little bit. And so I started to test that out, particularly in like some conflict situations. So one person came to me and they were upset about something and with someone else. And so I started to, instead of trying to say I'm just going to find out the truth about this situation, I started to ask questions like, okay, well, tell me more about that, or have you experienced anything like this before, or as you thought about the situation, is there any ideas that come to mind for you as how we could reconcile this? And then asking the same thing of the other person. And what I found, instead of rooting after such truth and the right answer or the wrong answer, is that so often the two people that were in conflict were probably about 2 degrees off. They just interpreted something differently, and that we could reconcile it really easily if I started to just ask questions and didn't have to have the right or the wrong answer. The same thing when a person would come into my office and they were frustrated about something. Instead of feeling like with my leader mantle that I had to find the right answer or give them a directive so they could go out and do, I just started to ask more questions and pull out the ideas from within them. So instead of making such declarative statements now, I try to lean into asking more questions, and I find that works so much better. Second thing that I would share is that I wish I understood earlier that good things can become intoxicating, and intoxicating things can become toxic. And for me, good things were generally ministry. I loved ministry. I always felt like I was pretty good at what I did. And so we get so involved in those good things and doing the good deeds and serving people, and it's all consuming, that it can also almost become seductive and intoxicating. So the good things kind of slide into that intoxicating thing, and all of a sudden it becomes all consuming in what we do, and we start to put our importance in who we are and our identity into that ministry, and we start to say, we are so, not only is that ministry valuable to me, but I'm valuable to that ministry, and I'm valuable to God, and what would God do without me here? It just subtly becomes that. And if we're not careful, it can slide into a toxic factor. It can such a slippery slope from good to intoxicating to toxic. And when it gets toxic, all of a sudden we find ourselves spending so much time in this ministry good project and giving up really important things in our lives, like family and our relationship with God, and maybe hearing new things that God wants to do in our life. And I think I've been down that slippery slope from good to intoxicating to toxic more times than I would want to share. But for me, the main thing is an awareness of that, to be aware when I'm sliding from good to intoxicating to toxic. And if I get to that toxic place where something is all-consuming, to me, to know that it is my responsibility to dig my way out. I have to come out of the toxic and back into the good, and try to live on the edge of good and intoxicating. I think that that's the right place to be. And the third thing, if I could do it all over again, that I would share with you is I think I would try, I know I would try to live a life that's willing to be more often a fool for Christ in order to live a life without regrets. I used to have this mentor in my late 20s, early 30s, and he always used to say, just be willing to be a fool for Christ. If you feel like God's calling you to do something, you just do it, kind of in that mantra of Noah building the ark. And I got that, and I think I did that fairly well in my life, but not always. There were so many times where I felt like taking a risk wasn't maybe the reasonable thing to do, or it wasn't the financially responsible thing to do. And there were times when I didn't take risks that I really felt God whispering to me that I should take, and I have regrets about that. So, my motto as I've gotten older is to just be willing to be a fool for Christ in order to live a life without regrets. No regrets. I kind of actually have that on my desk written really big letters. No regrets. Thanks.